Welcome back to Secrets Exposed. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. You're the reason these stories worth sharing. Tell us where you're watching from, city or country. We're amazed by how far these tales reach. Subscribe our channel and press bell icon to get daily new and amazing stories for you. Alright, let's begin. Rain whispered against the window pane as dusk settled over the quiet suburban street. Inside, the soft hum of the television filled the living room, casting flickering light across the walls. 8-year-old Lily sat on the carpet, legs crossed, her small hands wrapped around an old, cracked phone. Her eyes darted between the screen and her father, Daniel, who sat on the couch half distracted by the evening news. "Dad!" Her voice was hesitant, trembling just enough to make him turn. "Who is this man?" Daniel frowned, leaning forward. Lily held the phone toward him. On the dim screen was a picture, Claire, his wife, sitting at a cafe table, sunlight in her hair, and beside her, a man Daniel had never seen before. His hand rested gently on hers. Both were smiling. Both looked happy. The room went still. The soft ticking of the wall clock grew louder. Daniel's chest tightened as he forced a calm tone. "Sweetheart, where did you get that?" "From Mom's old phone. It was in the box under your bed," Lily said, looking uneasy. "She told me it was broken, but it still works." He reached out, his fingers shaking slightly as he took the phone. "It's late," he murmured. "Go brush your teeth, okay?" Lily nodded and padded toward the hallway, glancing back once before disappearing. Daniel stared at the photo, the edges of his vision blurring. The timestamp in the corner wasn't from years ago. It was recent, only a few months old. He sat there in silence, the rain tapping harder on the glass. The image burned into his mind, looping endlessly. Claire had said she'd lost that phone years back. Then where had it been all this time? And why did this man, this stranger, keep appearing in her pictures? Daniel's thumb hovered over the gallery icon, heart pounding as he opened it. Dozens of photos scrolled past. Birthdays, vacations, random smiles. But the same man was there, over and over. Sometimes just behind her shoulder, sometimes next to her, always close. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, Daniel's world began to tilt. He didn't know it yet, but that single photo, the one his daughter innocently found, would unravel everything he believed about his marriage, his home, and the woman he thought he knew. The next morning arrived gray and heavy, as if the sky itself shared Daniel's unease. The old phone lay on the kitchen table, still plugged into the charger. Its faint glow seemed to breathe with life. Every notification sound making his pulse skip. Claire moved about the kitchen, humming softly while packing Lily's lunch. She looked calm, too calm. Her hair was still damp from the shower, her movements smooth, practiced. Daniel watched her quietly, memorizing every detail. "You're up early," she said, noticing his gaze. "Couldn't sleep," he replied. His voice was steady, but the words felt like stone. He waited until Lily had skipped out to the car before he spoke again. "Hey, I found your old phone." Her hands froze mid-motion. The knife she was holding clinked softly against the counter. "My old phone," she repeated, forcing a small laugh. "Wow, I thought that thing was gone years ago. Where did you even find it?" "Lily found it," he said slowly. "Under our bed." Claire blinked, her lips parting just slightly. "Oh, that's strange." There was a beat of silence between them, long enough to hear the ticking clock above the fridge. Daniel leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. "Why were there new photos on it, Claire? One's taken this year." She turned away to pour herself coffee, pretending not to hear. "I don't know what you mean. Maybe the date on the phone was wrong." Daniel exhaled, jaw tight. "And the man in those photos? The one always next to you?" Claire froze again. The sound of coffee pouring stopped. When she turned back, her smile was gone. "Daniel," she said softly, "you're reading too much into it. I'll explain tonight, okay? Just not now." Her tone was calm, but her eyes were not. Behind the stillness, fear flickered, subtle but real. As she walked out the door, Daniel watched her go, the phone screen still glowing faintly on the table. When the door closed, he reached for it again, his reflection warped across the cracked glass. Somewhere deep in the device, a faint notification blinked to life, hidden folder restored. Daniel stared at it, unease crawling up his spine. The phone wasn't just old. It had been waiting to be found. That night, the house was quiet except for the distant hum of rain on the roof. The old phone sat beside Daniel on the couch, its screen flickering in the dim light. He'd waited until Claire and Lily had fallen asleep before returning to it, unable to stop himself. The gallery loaded slowly, each photo revealing something new, something worse. In one image, Claire was standing outside a small cafe, the same man's hand resting on her shoulder. In another, they were in front of a school gate, smiling like a couple caught in an unguarded moment. But what froze Daniel's blood was the timestamp, just 3 months ago. He rubbed his temples, whispering under his breath, "This doesn't make sense." He zoomed in on one photo. A reflection in a window behind them caught his attention, a car he recognized. His own car, parked across the street. He'd been there that day. That was Lily's school fundraiser. Claire had said she was too busy to attend. Daniel leaned back, heart pounding. Every piece began to shift inside his mind, rearranging the picture he thought he knew. The next morning, he watched Claire from the doorway as she brushed Lily's hair before school. Her laughter sounded natural, but he saw tension hiding beneath it, shoulders too stiff, eyes glancing toward her purse every few seconds. After they left, Daniel sat at the table again, the phone glowing before him like a confession waiting to be read. He tapped on the search bar, typing the man's name from one of the messages, Aaron. The results led to fragments, social profiles, work listings, old photos. One in particular made Daniel's breath catch. Aaron wasn't just some random acquaintance. He was a doctor, a family physician at the same hospital where Lily had been born. Daniel's pulse thundered. It was too much to be coincidence. As he scrolled further, he found one last image hidden in the trash folder. Claire sitting in a hospital bed, a newborn in her arms. The man beside her wasn't Daniel. The caption read, "Our little miracle." Daniel stared until the phone dimmed. His reflection glowed faintly in the black screen, pale and hollow. The man in every picture wasn't a stranger anymore. The storm outside had eased into a soft drizzle by the time Claire came home that evening. Her shoes tapped lightly against the hallway floor as she set down her purse, calling out, "Danny, you're still up." Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table, the only light coming from the old phone resting between them. Its cracked screen glowed faintly, illuminating his face, pale, rigid, unreadable. Claire hesitated when she saw it. Her voice faltered. "You found more?" He didn't answer right away. His gaze was cold, focused. "Sit down." She obeyed slowly, pulling out the chair across from him. The silence between them felt alive, like something crawling under the surface. Daniel turned the phone toward her. The hospital photo appeared, the one with her in the bed, smiling faintly, a man's arm around her shoulder, a newborn in her arms. "Explain this," he said quietly. Claire's eyes filled with tears almost instantly. "Daniel, please. It's not what it looks like," he cut her off. "Because it looks exactly like what I think it is. You lied, Claire. You said you lost that phone. You said there was never anyone before me." She covered her mouth, her breathing sharp and uneven. "I didn't know how to tell you. It was years ago. I thought it didn't matter anymore." He slammed his hand against the table, the sound echoing through the kitchen. Didn't matter? He was there when Lily was born. He called her our little miracle. What does that mean? Claire's tears spilled over. "Daniel, he was my ex. Before you. He left before I found out I was pregnant. I didn't know how to face it. You came into my life when I was falling apart. You saved me. You loved Lily like she was your own. I couldn't take that away from you." Daniel's voice softened for a brief moment. "So you just pretended? All these years?" She nodded slowly, shame pulling her shoulders inward. "I wanted to tell you, but every time I looked at you and her together, it felt wrong to destroy that happiness." For a long while, Daniel said nothing. The truth hung heavy, choking the air. Finally, he whispered, "I could have forgiven a mistake, Claire, but not a life built on lies." The rain began again, steady, relentless, as Claire's sobs filled the hollow silence of their home. The following night, sleep refused to come. Daniel lay awake, eyes open in the darkness, the ceiling fading in and out of focus. Claire's confession looped in his head, word for word, until it no longer sounded like language, just noise and pain. By dawn, he was already in the car, the road slick from last night's rain. The hospital where Lily had been born was 20 minutes away, but the drive felt endless. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tight they ached. Inside the hospital, the fluorescent lights were cold, sterile. A nurse at the records desk looked up politely. "Can I help you, sir?" Daniel hesitated, then lowered his voice. "I need to see my daughter's birth record. Lily Parker, born 8 years ago." She frowned gently. "Are you listed as the parent?" "Yes," he said, trying to sound calm. "I just need to confirm something." The nurse nodded and disappeared into the back. The ticking of a wall clock filled the silence. When she returned, she held a thin file. "Everything seems to be in order," she said softly, but her tone shifted as she looked closer. "Though there's a note here. Blood type mismatch." Daniel's heart skipped. "What does that mean?" "It's probably nothing," she said quickly. "Sometimes mix-ups happen." But the attending doctor, Dr. Aaron Cole, made a note recommending further testing. The name hit him like a strike to the chest. Aaron. His breath caught. "Dr. Aaron Cole?" "Yes," she replied, unaware of his spiraling thoughts. He handled several deliveries that month. Daniel forced a nod and thanked her, but his voice barely existed. As he walked through the hospital corridor, the truth formed quietly in his mind. Claire hadn't lied about everything. Aaron had disappeared, but he hadn't vanished from her life entirely. He had been there when Lily entered the world, just not as a lover. Asterisk, asterisk, as the doctor who brought her into it. Asterisk, asterisk. Still, the blood type mismatch wasn't an accident. It was confirmation. Lily wasn't his by blood. Daniel reached the parking lot, leaning against his car as the morning sun broke through the clouds. Tears blurred his eyes, but a fragile calm spread inside him. He had raised her, loved her, protected her. That truth no one could rewrite. As the wind carried the scent of rain, he whispered to himself, "She's still my daughter." But somewhere, deep down, a part of him knew, asterisk, asterisk, nothing would ever be the same again. Asterisk, asterisk. Evening fell heavy over the neighborhood. The faint hum of crickets outside was the only sound as Daniel parked the car in the driveway. He sat there for a long while, engine off, watching the glow from their living room window. Inside, silhouettes moved, Claire setting the table, Lily laughing at something on TV. From here, it looked like nothing had changed. But everything had. When he finally stepped inside, the warmth of home felt foreign. Lily ran to him, hugging his leg. "Daddy, you're late. Mom made pasta." Daniel forced a smile and kissed her head. "Smells good, kiddo." His voice cracked slightly, but Lily didn't notice. She ran off to her room, humming. Claire stood by the counter, drying her hands. "You went somewhere," she said quietly. "I saw your jacket was gone this morning." Daniel met her eyes, his expression unreadable. "I went to the hospital." The color drained from her face. "Daniel." He held up a hand. "Don't. I just needed answers. I saw the records." She swallowed hard. "Then you know. I know Aaron wasn't just someone from your past," he said, his tone calm but cold. "He delivered our daughter. And the records show Lily's blood type doesn't match mine." Claire's tears welled instantly. "I didn't know how to tell you. I swear, I didn't even know until after she was born. He came to see her once, just once, and then he left. I thought he'd never come back." Daniel looked down, exhaling shakily. "Then why are there new photos, Claire? He's still around. Don't lie to me." Claire's silence was answer enough. Finally, she whispered, "He reached out last year. Said he wanted to meet Lily, just once. I refused at first. But then, he showed me something. Medical records. He said Lily might have inherited a rare heart condition from him. That's why I met him again. That's why those photos exist." Daniel froze. "A heart condition?" She nodded, tears streaming. "I didn't cheat, Daniel. I was trying to protect her." The world seemed to stop for a moment. The betrayal he'd built in his mind shattered into confusion, guilt, and fear. He sat down slowly, burying his face in his hands. For the first time, Claire reached for him, and he didn't pull away. The man he thought had ruined his family might have been trying to save it. The next morning arrived cold and colorless. Claire had fallen asleep on the couch, a blanket half draped over her shoulders, eyes swollen from the night before. Daniel stood in the doorway, staring at her in silence. The weight of everything pressed down on him. Love, betrayal, confusion, guilt, all tangled into something unrecognizable. From the hallway, a soft cough broke his thoughts. Lily stood there, clutching her chest lightly. "Dad, my heart feels funny again." The words sliced through him. He dropped to his knees beside her. "Hey, sweetheart, where does it hurt?" She pointed just under her collarbone. Her breathing was shallow but steady. Claire woke instantly, rushing over. "It's happening more often," she whispered, panic flashing in her eyes. Daniel nodded, his voice low. "We're going to the hospital. Now." The drive was quiet except for Lily's small, steady breaths in the back seat. Rain began to fall again, streaking across the windshield. In the passenger seat, Claire's hands trembled on her lap. When they arrived, the pediatric ward smelled of disinfectant and fear. Nurses moved briskly, machines beeped, and the fluorescent lights made everything feel too real. Lily was taken for tests while Daniel and Claire sat together, side by side, but miles apart. The silence between them was no longer anger. It was exhaustion. After an hour, a doctor entered. His name tag read Dr. Cole. Daniel froze. The man from the photos, older now, with streaks of gray at his temples. Claire stood slowly. "Aaron." Dr. Cole's eyes softened. "Claire." "Daniel." He looked at both of them with quiet regret. "I wish we were meeting under different circumstances." He turned to Daniel. "Lily's condition is treatable, but it confirms what I suspected years ago. She inherited a mild congenital defect from me." The words hung in the air. Daniel's chest felt hollow. Aaron continued gently. "She'll need monitoring and care, but she's going to be fine. You've done everything right raising her." Daniel looked at the floor, tears forming despite himself. "So it's true." Aaron nodded. "Yes, but she's yours too, Daniel. You're the one she calls Dad. Biology doesn't change that." Claire began to cry softly. Daniel sat still, emotion flooding through him. Rage, sorrow, and something deeper, relief. For the first time, the truth was fully in the open. And though it shattered everything he thought he knew, it also began to rebuild something new, fragile but real. Night fell gently over the city, painting the hospital windows in streaks of orange and gold. Lily lay asleep in her bed, a soft beeping from the monitor keeping rhythm with her heartbeat. Daniel sat beside her, his hand resting lightly on hers, watching every rise and fall of her chest. Across the room, Claire stood near the window with Aaron. They spoke in low voices, measured, fragile. Daniel couldn't hear them, but he could read their faces. Regret, concern, the weight of years between them. Aaron eventually walked over, his expression calm but heavy. "I'll keep overseeing her case," he said quietly. "She's going to need regular checkups for a while, but she'll recover. You both caught it early." Daniel nodded stiffly. "Thank you." Aaron hesitated, then added, "I'm not here to take anything away from you, Daniel. She knows who her real father is." Daniel's throat tightened. "She deserves to know everything one day. But not now. Not when she's this young." Aaron nodded. "When that time comes, I'll respect whatever decision you make." He extended his hand. Daniel looked at it for a long moment before shaking it, firm but distant. When Aaron left, silence returned. Claire turned toward Daniel, her voice trembling. "I didn't want any of this to happen. I just wanted to protect her." Daniel exhaled, eyes still on Lily. "I know. I wish you had trusted me sooner." She came closer, hesitating before resting a hand on his shoulder. "Can we fix this?" He didn't answer right away. His gaze softened as he looked at Lily sleeping peacefully, her small hand wrapped around his fingers. "I don't know if I can fix us," he said finally, voice low. "But I can promise you this. I'll never stop being her dad." Claire's eyes filled with tears. She nodded, whispering, "That's all I ever hoped." Outside the hospital, rain began to fall again, gentle, cleansing. Inside, Daniel kissed his daughter's forehead, whispering, "You're my heart, Lily. Always will be." Her fingers twitched in her sleep, as if holding onto him tighter. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by truth and forgiveness, Daniel realized something profound. Blood might reveal where we come from, but love decides where we belong. 10 years passed. The world outside changed. New homes, new schools, new seasons. But one secret had remained sealed between three people. Lily, now 18, sat at the kitchen table one rainy afternoon, scrolling through old family photos on her laptop for a school project about defining moments. Her fingers froze on one picture, an old, pixelated shot of her mother holding her as a baby in a hospital room. Standing next to her was a man she didn't recognize. Not Daniel. Something about the man's smile felt hauntingly familiar. The eyes, so much like hers. She looked up as Daniel entered the room, older now, silver touching his hair. "Dad," she said softly, "who's this man?" Daniel stopped mid-step. The room seemed to lose its sound. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. It was the exact line that had once shattered his world years ago, spoken again by the same little girl, now grown. He set down the mug in his hand. "Where did you find that?" "On Mom's old phone. I backed it up last night." Daniel sat across from her, his expression unreadable. Claire, now standing in the doorway, had heard everything. Her hand covered her mouth as tears welled up. "Lily," Claire's voice cracked. "There's something I should have told you a long time ago." Lily's eyes darted between them. "Mom." Daniel reached over and gently placed a hand on her arm. "Let me." He took a breath, steady and heavy. "That man in the photo, his name is Aaron. He was your biological father. But I was there the day you were born. I raised you. I loved you every second since." Lily's lips parted, confusion clouding her face. "So you knew?" "All this time." Daniel nodded. "And it never changed how I saw you. You're my daughter. Always have been." Silence hung between them until Lily stood and hugged him tightly, her tears falling against his shoulder. "You're my dad," she whispered. "No picture can change that." Claire joined them, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, both of you." Daniel didn't reply. He just held them both, past, present, and forgiveness tangled together. Outside, the storm eased. The world, once shattered by a secret, began to feel whole again. A week later, Lily couldn't shake the image of the man from her mind. She needed to know who Aaron truly was, not as a ghost from a photo, but as a person who once held a piece of her story. Claire hesitated at first, but eventually agreed to arrange a meeting. It was quiet that Sunday afternoon when they pulled up to a small clinic on the outskirts of town. The glass doors slid open, revealing a familiar figure waiting inside, a man in his late 40s, with calm eyes and a faint smile that mirrored Lily's own. Aaron stood, nervous but composed. "You must be Lily." She nodded, her throat tight. "I guess I am." They sat in his office, the faint smell of antiseptic and coffee in the air. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Aaron began softly, "I never tried to reach out. I thought it would hurt more than it would help. Daniel raised you with love. I didn't want to break that." Lily studied him. The way he spoke carefully, like every word carried weight. "Why didn't you and Mom stay together?" she asked. Aaron exhaled slowly. "We made mistakes. I thought she'd be happier without the chaos that came with me. And she was. Daniel was the man I couldn't be." Claire's eyes lowered. "It wasn't that simple," she whispered. Lily looked between them, sensing years of guilt stretching through the air like cracks in glass. "So what now?" she asked. Aaron smiled faintly. "Now, you live your life knowing the full truth. And know that from a distance, I've always been proud of you." He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a photo. Her, as a newborn, wrapped in a pink blanket, his hand resting gently on her head. "I just wanted you to have this," he said quietly. Tears filled Lily's eyes. She stood and hugged him, awkward at first, then real. "Thank you," she whispered. As they left, she looked back one last time. Aaron waved, his smile warm but sad. In the car, Daniel's message arrived on her phone. Asterisk, dinner's ready. "Come home soon, kiddo." Asterisk. She smiled, wiping her eyes. The man in the photo had given her life, but the man waiting at home had given her everything else. That night, as the rain whispered softly against her window, Lily sat at her desk with the envelope still in her hands. But this time, she noticed something else tucked behind the old photo, a folded piece of paper yellowed with age. Her heartbeat quickened as she unfolded it. The handwriting was unfamiliar, neat but heavy with emotion. It was a letter from Aaron. Dear Lily, asterisk if you're reading this, it means your mother finally found the courage I couldn't. There hasn't been a single day I haven't thought about you. When you were born, I held you for just a moment before I had to leave. I told myself it was for your good. That love sometimes means walking away. But the truth is I never stopped being your father, even from a distance. Asterisk. Asterisk, your mother chose the right man to raise you. Daniel was everything I wasn't, patient, kind, steady. I asked him to take care of you before I left town. He didn't hesitate. He loved you instantly. And because of him, you never had to feel the pain I caused. For that, I owe him everything. Asterisk. Asterisk, if one day you find this letter, I hope you'll forgive us. Not for what we did, but for the silence that followed. Love isn't always clean, Lily. Sometimes it's messy, selfish, and filled with mistakes. But still love. Asterisk. Asterisk with all my heart. Aaron. Asterisk. Lily's eyes blurred as she finished reading. The pieces she never understood suddenly fell into place. The tension, the hidden looks between her parents, Daniel's quiet sadness during her childhood birthdays. It all made sense now. She placed the letter on her nightstand and stared at it for a long moment. Then, she picked up her phone and texted Daniel. Asterisk, can we talk? Asterisk. Minutes later, Daniel appeared at her doorway. Everything okay? Lily held up the letter. He wrote this for me. And he said, you knew. Daniel nodded, stepping closer. I did. He wanted what was best for you. So did I. She smiled through tears. He was right about one thing. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What's that? You were the right man. He pulled her into a quiet hug, the kind that said everything words never could. Outside, the storm faded, leaving behind only the sound of peace. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting soft gold across the table where Daniel sat, sipping coffee. For the first time in years, there was no weight pressing on his chest, just quiet stillness. Lily walked in, holding the letter. Her eyes were red from crying, but her expression was calm. Claire followed, a few steps behind, clutching her own mug like a shield. Dad, Lily said softly, I think it's time we stop hiding from the past. Daniel looked up, surprised. You mean? She nodded. I want us to visit him. Together. Claire froze. Aaron. Lily nodded again. He deserves to hear what I have to say. And so do you. A silence stretched between them. A decade of secrets finally reaching their end. Daniel took a deep breath. All right, he said. Let's finish this chapter properly. They drove out of the city that afternoon, the world outside painted with the soft colors of autumn. When they reached the clinic, Aaron was waiting at the entrance, leaning on the railing, his expression cautious but hopeful. Lily was the first to step forward. I read your letter, she said. Thank you for being honest. For caring, even from far away. Aaron's eyes glistened. I never stopped. Then she turned to Daniel and reached for his hand. But I know who raised me. Who stayed. Daniel smiled faintly, his throat tight. You don't have to choose, Lily. I'm not choosing, she said. I'm accepting. The three of them stood together, not bound by lies anymore, but by the strange, painful beauty of truth. Claire joined them a moment later, her voice trembling. I should have told the truth years ago. But maybe it's not too late to start again. Aaron nodded slowly. It's never too late to heal, Claire. As they stood in the golden light, the wind carried away the last fragments of silence that had haunted their lives. For the first time, they were just a family, imperfect but real. And as Daniel looked at Lily, he realized that the secret that once shattered them had also taught them something far greater. Love isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who stays when the truth comes out.